About once a year, the New York Times has an article with a headline like, "Many Arabs see double standard for Israel." Then there's a report quoting various intellectuals and political leaders who say, well, it could be that the U.S. has a double standard. When you travel around the country and the world and talk about U.S. adherence to UN Security Council resolutions, how do people respond? I don't think there's a double standard. I don't think there's inconsistency. I think there's a single standard, and it's followed consistently. There are policies formulated in the perceived interests of domestic U.S. power, the state-corporate nexus, and those policies are followed quite consistently. They have nothing to do with law or morality or human welfare. They have to do with maximizing certain interests. So when people talk about double standards and inconsistency, as they do all over the world, my response, when I can talk to them, is to say, you're looking at the matter incorrectly. It's very consistent, and has been for a long time. In continental Europe, largely opposed to the U.S. stand on West Asia, what we call the Middle East, they talk about this double standard in U.S. policy, which is a serious error, because it fails to recognize that the policy is quite rational, though sometimes people may rationally choose a policy which happens not to work. U.S. policy is perfectly rational, understandable, consistent, and is explained and applied over time. To call it irrational, a double standard, or inconsistent is to give away too much. It assumes that there are some crazy people doing things in some random fashion. Not at all. They are perfectly reasonable people doing things according to plans and in terms of interests that they perceive and try to implement. They're not above error. In fact, they make plenty of idiotic errors. There's a lot of stupidity and ignorance. But nevertheless, it's a consistent and understandable policy, and I think it should be seen that way.